Well, of course, on preachers, like tell them on preachers, these 3 preachers were in a boat, and they were going to be fishing. And they said, it might be a good time to confess my sins. And this one preacher said, I have a real big problem with alcoholism. I just drink too much, and I'm trying to work on it. And the other one says, well, I don't have a problem with that. But he said, I have a gambling problem, and I'm just losing a lot of money. And they looked at the third one and said, what's your situation? He says, well, I have a big problem with gossip, and I can't wait to get out of this boat. Have I told you the parachute jokes about jumping out of the parachute? No. Oh, okay.
Say yes.
Guy said, okay. Yes, I told you that one, didn't I? Yeah, I know I told you. There are 2 of them. So I told you about the little boy. Well, no, I won't tell it. I tell you the one that really, I had an elder I had an elder and a preacher laugh for 30 minutes on this one during the whole sermon. I said, you think you got problems? I said, this guy was driving down the road and had this big panel truck. He'd drive down the road about a mile and get out and slap the side of the truck, get back in and drive off. Drive about another one, slap the side of the truck. And these highway patrolmen got to following him. Finally, they pulled him over and said, man, what's your problem? He said, well, I got a problem. He said, I got a 1-ton truck here, and I got 2 tons of canaries in the back. I got to keep a ton of them in the air all the time. This counterfeiter made a bunch of $15 bills, and he didn't know what he was going to do, so he took, I know, but one more. Made these $15 bills. He thought, now, well, what am I going to do with these $15 bills? So he said, well, I'll go to Arkansas. They don't know much. So I went down there and went into the store and said, I need change for a $15 bill. And the guy said, how do you want it? 2 6s and a 3 or 7 and 8? Never mind.
Now can we start?
Yes, we can start.
Am I on?
You're on. Okay.
Is it good?
All right, first of all, we want to thank you for coming. You have been a great audience for about 8 Wednesday nights in a row. We thank you very much, and you've arranged your schedule, and thank you very much for going. If this has been helpful to you, first thing we want you to go home and thank God. He is the wind beneath our wings. He's the one we want to receive all the glory and the praise and the credit for all that we do. If it also has been helpful to you, I'd say something to the elders here of the church, especially Dennis. He's worked pretty hard on this, and Scott's done a great job with this, and Heath, all these other people. Express your thanks and appreciation to them. Also, if you know of other churches in this area, in this state, out of this state, that would benefit by what we do, that's how we get conferences, is by word of mouth. So we would appreciate if you would say something to them. If the conference has not been helpful to you, we suggest you don't tell anybody.
Well,
keep your mouth shut. I don't want to hear about it, and don't tell anybody.
You can tell us.
You can tell her. I'm not going to listen to it. All right,
tell me.
I'm not about to do so. All right, I assume everybody has their outline, and here we go. What we're going to talk about tonight is the final conference that we normally do in a situation, and we're talking about willing to adjust. Now, we're going to say a lot of things, and some of them are sort of on a general basis. So we would suggest that whatever we say tonight, adjust to your particular situation, whether it's a relationship, a family, a marriage, or whatever it might be. So you're going to have to apply this to your situation. So adjusting is very, very important. So Lynn's going to start out by what does the wife need as we go through the seasons of life. Lindy?
All right. Okay, hang on just a second. No, you can go ahead. You can do that.
Okay, I can do that.
All right. Number one, help her at home. Help her at home. Not too long ago, I saw a kitchen towel, and the sentiment just made me laugh out loud in the store, and I bought it for somebody else, not for me. But the sentiment was this: yes, I'm still in my pajamas. What did I do all day? Well, the kids are still alive. Now tell me I'm pretty. Now, Maybe the women get a little bit more of understanding about that, but nevertheless, things are very, very different than they were when we started our conference 30 years ago. And I think the younger generations probably are doing a better job with this. And there are many more women working outside the home now as well. I find that usually it has a lot to do with the family of origin. Who was the domestic engineer as you were growing up? And like I said, I think the younger generations may be doing a little better than some of the previous generations, but let me back up. Through the years that I actually worked as a therapist, I'll be just quite honest, I don't think I did a very good job with premarital counseling. Oh, I tried. I did the testing, the feedback, all of that kind of stuff, you know. But it seemed like the couples that came to see me were much more interested in planning the wedding than planning the marriage. Now keep in mind, I was rearing 2 sons. And I'm not really a frou-frou kind of female anyway. I don't know wedding planning. I don't like wedding planning. And so when I would say, this week we want to write the budget, this week I want to know how the voices from your past resolve conflict. What are your budget aspirations? Are you on the same page? You know, what about vocation? What, are we good with our education? Do we want to go back to school? What about child rearing? What was the mode of operation? And on and on and on. Who's going to do the vacuuming? Who's going to do the other domestic chores? Who's going to do the Wally World run or whatever? They didn't want to talk about those things because they were in love.
And love was going to clean the bathroom.
I guess.
Love was going to do the grocery shopping.
I don't know. You know, that dopamine, norepinephrine stuff we talked about, that intoxication when you're falling in love, tricking you into getting married. Okay, it was really high. And so all the practical stuff, they really weren't much interested in. They pretended, but they were. But I guess I'm a little slow. But finally it dawned on me a few years in, they're not listening to me. You know, they're really not, and maybe they don't know what to listen for. So I finally decided if I could come up with a phrase that they would remember, if the domestic waters became a little rough down the way, they would at least remember the phrase. And this is the preface to it. Wait, whoa, you're ADD. All right. No. No. Okay. Where was I?
You were saying I was great.
Well, you are great. All right. If, and I've got to qualify this in a lot of ways that I didn't have to 30 years ago. If both of you are employed, and I realize a lot of people are employed by companies or then they work from home. So if both of you are employed and working at basically the same number of hours every day, or if one of you is involved in hands-on child rearing, that same number of hours, this is the phrase. Do not sit down at night until your spouse does.
Say it again.
Don't sit down at night until your spouse
I
does.
tell you what goes all over a tired woman, gentlemen, is after supper, you're on the couch snoring. I mean, it can put her higher orbit than John Glenn ever thought about going. Now, what happens after supper? You clean off the table. You put the dish in the dishwasher. I don't know how to do it. You can learn how to do it. It's not that difficult, okay? Now, if there are towels then need to be folded, fold the towels. Now, gentlemen, I warn you, there is a right way and a wrong way to fold a towel.
Well, that's true. They fit better.
All right, Jack, you know, here's the way you do it. Now, what you do not understand is that when you're doing dishes, cleaning off the table and folding towels, that as far as your wife is concerned, that is sexual foreplay.
It is.
Well, I never thought about it like that. I know you didn't think about, well, that stuff doesn't turn me on. I know it doesn't. We'll get to you later. Just be calm, okay? Now, after you get all this clothes folded over, the next thing you do, gentlemen, is go get the vacuum cleaner. I don't know what it is that excites a woman so much when she hears going to that calculation. And you know, man, that thing doesn't excite me. I know it doesn't excite you. Would you calm down? I'll get to you a little bit later. Now, that means if you follow what I have suggested, there'll not be a dirty dish or an unfolded towel in all of Maryland Heights and Bridgeton and Ladue or wherever you live by 9 o'clock tonight. Yes.
All right.
How'd I do?
I guess you did
Did
fine.
I say it like you told me to?
Well, I couldn't have written that, that's for sure. I think you get the idea. You're both on task. And like I said, it's very different than it used to be. If both of you are on the same page, the way you keep house. In other words, if both of you keep house like Jerry, that's fine, not right or wrong, that's your deal. Then you can agree on how to not keep house or whatever you want to do. If both of you are more like me, not that that's right or wrong, but you know, disorder and clutter kind of bothers you a little bit more, you're probably not going to have an issue either because you're both on the same page. However, if one of you is like Jerry and one of you like me, you're going to have issues. And I think we went through this the first night, actually, that we presented. Remember, clean house doesn't mean clean house. So what I'm talking about here is try to be attentive. If you are not on the same page, be attentive and kind of meet in the middle. And there is always a good rule of thumb. If you get it out, put it up. If you mess it up, clean it up. Because somebody's going to have to, right? I mean, if your clothes are on the floor, unless all of you leave all your clothes on the floor, okay, that's fine. But if you leave them there thinking that the clothing fairy's going to come and pick them up, that's probably not going to happen. You know, if one of you is changing the sheets on the bed and the other one sits in the chair and watches, excuse me. Do you see what I'm saying? You love each other enough to be tuned in to where they are. And sometimes for some of us, we need to be a little bit more tuned in than others of us. So whatever it would be, you talk about this, compromise if you have to, but don't let this unmet expectation thing compress, and become vented anger, because I guarantee you it really will. And by the way, ladies, what is good for you is good for him. If he's matching you step by step during the week, then on Saturday, if he's mowing the yard or if he's washing the vehicles, don't be sitting on the couch painting your toenails, all right? Well, and if one of you is employed or works whatever, 6 hours a day, the other 8, prorate that thing down. When you said I do, you made a promise. You made a covenant that you would help each other. Don't forget the covenant. Next, give her romance and affection.
Oh, gentlemen, they like this.
Jerry,
you know.
this is
Yeah, I know it is, but I'm going to tune in a little bit. We ask. I said, well, I'll ask the young man. I said, do you, pull her chair back in the restaurant? Do you allow her first? Do you give her a card? Do you? No. How come? We're married now. No, wait a minute. That's one of the reasons you need to do that. They appreciate that. Write her a note now and then. You say, well, I don't know what to say. Well, get a card. It will say it for you, okay? You don't even, it's not, they're too expensive. No, they're not expensive. It's these little things that really make a difference with her, and it excites her knowing, it doesn't excite me. We're not worried about you just yet. Just calm down. No, a card now and then, if not, write her poetry. Well, I'm sure not good at that. You don't have to be good at it. It's important to her. Write her anything. Roses are red, violets are blue. I love you, do.
Well, I certainly didn't write that. Work on your poetry.
I got a song we could sing.
No, we're not singing. I think you get the idea. And by the way, this is outside the bedroom. The bedroom stuff doesn't count. Okay, we're going to cycle back around to that in a few minutes. We've already addressed that in one session. I'm talking about a smile, a hug, just I love you, a wink, all those tiny little things that you used to do probably whenever it was when you were in that dopamine norepinephrine high, Okay, romance and affection. And by the way, that doesn't mean the gentlemen don't need that. Like Jerry said, of all the sessions that we have, this is the one where you're going to have to mix and match more than any of the others, because sometimes men are more romantic and more affectionate than the female. Generally speaking, it's the other way. But regardless, you take what we're saying tonight and match it to your particular situation. Next, give her security, specifically in three areas. Number one, give her spiritual security. I think most of the women in here, in fact, I think I could say 100%, will agree with everything I'm going to say under this topic. I just happen to have the mic tonight. So, gentlemen, this is her heart to your heart. Give her spiritual security. She's thrilled when you lead public worship, when you serve, when you teach, when you are just a good person, when you are known in your community as a man of integrity. But let me tell you what she's yearning for. She's yearning for that spiritual giant in the home. Not perfection, she can't offer perfection, but the direction of your life. That beautiful servant leader that Jerry depicted when we kicked this whole thing off on that Sunday morning. It's not my way or the highway, but you lead by your example. The man that will pray with her and will listen to her pray. The man that will go to Bible class and take the kids to Bible class, not just send them. The man that will try to lead in a godly way. I'll be quite honest, it's not that she can't do it. For decades, we've seen it all too often. The woman trying desperately to lead the family spiritually. But gentlemen, let me tell you about her heart. She doesn't want the job. She'll do it if you won't, out of default, because somebody must. But gentlemen, she doesn't want that job. Honor that need in her. In addition to that, she needs financial security, and this does not mean that you have to work 3 jobs to provide her every little heart's desire. And ladies, on the flip side of this, as much as we might want to argue this point, the male ego in our culture is still very closely tied to his ability to do his job and to do it well. Now, ladies, I'm not saying that your career is not tied to what you do. But it is interesting, and of course you've got, when you go to research, you're looking the bell of the bell curve. You've always got exceptions, but it is a profound phenomenon that gentlemen usually are identified by what's called a singular dream, their vocation. If a woman has children, is responsible for children, and also has a career, it's called the split dream, the dual dream. And it's so profound, it's all over the research. And it's not, gentlemen, that your heart is not with the children, but there's something that changes about most women. And it doesn't matter if they're career-oriented or not, but part of their heart and their consciousness and their concentration is gravitating to the children, regardless of how old they are, how far away they may be. And again, gentlemen, it's not that you're not, but generally speaking, that is more specific to the female. You are identified by your job. And ladies, we've got to honor that and respect that. And ladies, that means that we will work with a budget with him, and we won't complain about what our friends have and what we don't have, or where somebody else's lives and we don't live, or what we want to do with vacation and can't do whatever, and what. Forget that stuff. forget that stuff, right? You budget your money, you plan your money. I think Jerry saw a quotation he told me about last week. Somebody, I guess, I don't know if man, woman, somebody went to heaven and God said, "What'd you do with your life?" And the guy or the woman said, "I did a lot, but you burned it all up." Think about that just a minute. All right? Financial security, budget, and be a good steward of what you have together. And ladies, we will work with him with this. Gentlemen, by this I also mean that by no irresponsible spending of yours, addictive habit of yours, a recreational pursuit of yours, that you devastate the family financially. Cards face up on the table. If there is a Christian woman that is trying to follow the leadership of her husband financially, and he's not a really good financial manager or leader and won't negotiate with her about this, she's in a catch-22. She cannot win. Why? Because if she questions your decision-making and you won't negotiate with her, she runs the risk perhaps of your vented anger or maybe that cold shoulder being ignored. But if she says nothing, she may run the risk of watching you devastate the family financially. You see, she can't win. Together you write the budget. Together you plan. Together you manage this part of your life. And finally, in this area, give her moral security. We suffer from a psychological epidemic in our culture called ageism. You've heard the term, even if passing, it's the worship of youth. Now notice I said in our culture, correct? Not all cultures, our cultures, the worship of youth. Now, gentlemen, in the vocational arena, unless you are self-employed or you work for a company that is an exception, you will catch it on the chin with ageism. It really won't matter if you're at the apex of your career, you've never been stronger, brighter, better at what you do. Age 65, it's now time for the gold watch and the dinner. If you are lucky, now thank you for your life. Time now for the new generation, perhaps hired at a half or maybe if they're lucky, 2/3 your salary. But gentlemen, in the social arena, listen to me carefully. The older you get, if you have any kind of sense at all, you have any kind of financial security, and you look halfway decent, you will become a very, very valuable commodity. I'm just calling it. But it's not quite that way for the ladies. You see, vocationally, she's going to catch it with ageism, right? Maybe the dinner, the bracelet, thank you for your life. But you see, socially, she will catch it in a way that you never will. In our culture, a woman's worth, I think much too much so, by the way, is closely tied with her appearance, specifically her youthful looking appearance. Gentlemen, as you gray and you wrinkle, you look distinguished. As she grays and she wrinkles, she just looks plain old. If you've been married any length of time at all, I want you to choose a time and look at her. Look, no, not now. I want you to choose a time when she is deep in thought, and then I want you to study her. Chances are the little wrinkles are beginning to come, and chances are they're not quite so little anymore. Chances are the hair in its natural color is not what it once was, and chances are the body is not shaped quite like it used to be. Now, ladies, on the flip side of this, you gentlemen really are visually oriented, so we really need to do the best we can with what we've got for as long as we can. But at our best, we're getting older. Gentlemen, you are too. The gray hair, the wrinkles are the trophies of her life. She earned every one of them, most of them taking care of you and your children. Why should she apologize for that? May she never go to bed at night wondering if she's being compared to someone half her age. May she never go to bed at night wondering if she's being compared to some pornographic image. May she go to bed every night rest assured of the fact that regardless of how gray the hair, how deep the wrinkles, how misshapen the body, that when you look at her, you see the love of your life. As far as I'm concerned, the very cruelest thing you can do to her is to use up her youth and throw her away. Just take a knife and cut her heart out, okay? It won't hurt as long or as badly. Gentlemen, love that woman, honor that woman, nurture and cherish her through the seasons of your life.
What does he need? A little bit different. Chuck, there are two ladies I believe have come in that didn't have outlines. So I think a lady over here, there's one over there. If you'd make sure that they have outlines, please. All right. What does the husband need? What's involved here? Number one, you see where I'm going, Chuck, over here? You right there. And then on the far side over there. All right, number one, ladies, he needs appreciation. Appreciation. In other words, he needs to understand that you are his biggest fan. That doesn't mean, he always makes the right decisions or anything else. If he makes a wrong decision, it's not good to, well, I told you so. He feels worse about it than you do. Now, gentlemen, if you want your wife to appreciate you and express that kind of appreciation, you're going to have to earn it. If you're running her down, calling her names, making fun of her and so on, don't expect her then to have that kind of appreciation. Number two, ladies, he needs respect. He needs your respect. He needs the children's respect. He needs your friends' respect. Sometimes we find couples running one another down in front of others under the guise of being funny. Nobody in this room believes strongly in humor than yours truly, but if you use it to tear down the self-esteem and the self-respect of another person, you're wrong. Well, I didn't mean it that way. Stop it. Stop it. We have the blended family of 5, and in front of all of our children, I build up Lynn, what a wonderful person she is. She does the same thing with me because I want my children and I want her children then to actually have respect, and they see it then in the kind of interaction that we have. Third, ladies, he needs to be desired and wanted. Sometimes men work in some places where there are a lot of attractive women, and some people play games. We don't encourage that at all. We talked about that in another conference. But he wants to know that you, his wife, sees him as desirable. You say, well, I do. Does he know that? Well, I don't know if he does or not. Well, you need to tell him so. Well, how do you do that? Well, number one, compliment him. Say something nice about him. You say, well, we were in college, he was a real hunk, and now he's just become a big lump. All of my friends thought he was a heartthrob, and now he's under cardiac arrest. Okay, so he's not the best looking thing on the block, all right? We'll concede that for just a moment. Surely you can say something nice about him. If nothing else, say, sweetheart, I'm glad you have 2 ears, one on each side of your head. And it's good for the family portraits or something. Maybe that encourage him a little bit some way. I'm just trying to give you some things to do. Smile at him. When you dated, didn't you smile at him? Sure you did. He came to pick you up for the date. He said, oh, I'm excited. I'd like to go to that restaurant. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing that movie. I know you, when you took him home, and you smiled. Thank you very much for the evening. I know you didn't frown at him the whole time. Because no man in his right mind would marry a frowning woman, you know. Marry me and frown at me the rest of your life, you know. He's not going to do that. You need to smile at him. That's the biggest part. Lynn and I eat out a lot because I like to eat. This is a habit I picked up in early childhood. We can go to a restaurant. I don't care where it is.
It's
and I
true.
can pick out the dating couples from the married couples every time. You say, how do you do that? Oh, it's easy. You don't have to. Halfway across the restaurant, I can see it. The dating couples are sitting there going. The married couples are sitting there.
Yeah, watching
Watching the dating couples. Smile at him. Okay? Wink at him. Now, ladies, I hope you're writing these things down. You leave it alone. I'm in charge of this thing right here. Wink at him. You say you don't know how to do that? How inept can you be? All right, go home tonight, go in the bathroom, shut the door, get in front of the mirror, and practice. I suggest you start with the right eye. Then you start with the left eye. Then if you think you're pretty sharp, do both eyes at the same time. Now, if you go out there and you wink at him, and he says, honey, there's something wrong with your contacts or something, you know, here you go. Okay. One more suggestion, ladies. At some weird, inopportune time, whisper something wild in his ears. You say, what should I say?
No, we're not going to tell you.
What do you mean we're not going to tell?
No, we're not. Every woman knows her man. We don't need to say anything.
This is my part. I can tell him what to tell.
I don't care. You interrupted me. I'm interrupting you. Every woman knows her man. Proceed.
All right.
We need to go ahead.
I know what
Time.
we need to do. We got till tomorrow morning.
No, we don't.
Okay. All right, ladies, she's not going to let me tell you what to say. So,
Come on,
Get on the frequency, okay?
Jerry.
Ladies, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, and you whisper in his ear, there is a good possibility that smoke will go out of both ears. If they're having a potluck meal downstairs after services, and that's when you say it, he'll probably say, let's skip the meal and go home, okay? All right. I'll move on.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. What are we going to do here? What do both need? Both need some time alone. We have lost the Old Testament art of meditation. Many times Jesus went someplace in solitude. Many times Jesus prayed all night long, and I doubt seriously if he did all the talking. Solitude is a great time to develop Christ-likeness. If you're interested in developing Christ-likeness, it's just a three-pronged deal. Number one, you have to be with him, you have to become like him, and you have to do what Jesus did. Jesus never told you to accept him. He told you to follow him. Jesus did not come into this world so we could talk about him. He came into this world that we might follow him. There's a difference between liking Jesus and become in the likeness of Jesus. Time alone will be very helpful in this area.
In addition to that, you need time together. Now, we have kind of hinted at this, I think 2 or 3 times, so let's go ahead and really address it. Number one, or A, I believe it is on your outline, you need at least 30 minutes a day in your face time, not negative in your face. You cannot talk about the weather. You can't talk about the children. You can't talk about politics. You can't talk about your yard. You can't talk about your pets. You can't talk about other people. You can't talk about relatives. Well, you say, well, that just eliminates everything. What do? Just stare at each other? No. There is a goal, and it's so simple, we look over it. Your goal is to learn one personal thing about your spouse that you did not know 24 hours earlier. And I'm not talking about their favorite color in 3rd grade. This one little suggestion used with the servant card can save a marriage. We've had so much feedback about it years later. You say, well, that sounds really ridiculous. No, let me tell you why it is so crucial. When a young couple gets married, they're best friends. You would marry because you don't think you could live without each other, correct? Absolutely. And erroneously, and it is Satan's lie, because you are best friends when you say I do, you will forever be best friends, and that doesn't happen. Why? Because every day of our lives, we're experiencing things, and ladies and gentlemen, whether we want to admit it or not, we are becoming different people. Now, hopefully, our core values are still the same, and we still love each other, but really being in love with each other and emotionally connected to each other doesn't just happen. And so what happens? Life and children and jobs and the sandwich generation and on and on and on. And each day you are changing. Many of us are away from our spouses during the prime of the day. We look better, we act better, we talk better, we're just better. And then what happens? We come home and the people we say we love the most get our leftovers, correct? 30 minutes a day. This is not a time to double V. You can't argue. You are to listen. It is finger on the spouse of the pulse of your spouse. This is your insurance policy that when you have the empty nest, if you rear children, you won't look across this kitchen table at each other and say, who in the world are you now? You're an older version of the person I married, but who really are you now? 30 minutes a day. And it is also the assurance, and I think this is part of the magic of this particular thing, that in a world that can be so chaotic, you know that there is one period every day, that 30-minute period, when you have the undivided attention of your spouse. The children aren't around, the phones are turned off, television is off. Something that impacted your spouse's life, something they read, something they heard, a dream they have, something they want to accomplish. It seems so tiny, and that's what Satan wants it to seem. So insignificant it doesn't matter. Let me tell you, it can save your marriage. It can save your marriage through the decades. And we say, well, we don't have 30 minutes. How much time do you spend watching television? How much time do you spend playing games? How much time do you spend, we've got the 30 minutes, right? Everything in life we give something else up. Life is nothing more than a series of choices and trade-offs. We've talked about that. 30 minutes a day. It has to be taken before 9 o'clock. Why? You already know, because larks start falling asleep around 9 o'clock, right? It has to be before 9 o'clock. Some couples have the luxury of lunch together. Take the 30 minutes. We have a lot of couples that prayer walk. We didn't dream it up, but it's a great idea. We like to multitask. 30 minutes, you walk, you pray, you share. I mean, that's a win-win, correct? Some couples do the dishes together. That's okay, too. According to Jerry, that's sexual foreplay. I agree. All right, so you get the dishes done, sexual foreplay, and you share. That's not a bad idea. We give a couple of suggestions. You see them on your outline. Walk together, hot drink time. Some couples like this one. Why? Because the time you brew a cup of coffee, tea, you drink it, or it cools, or vice versa in the summer, right? It's 30 minutes, a beginning and an end. But it has to be before 9 o'clock at night, and if the children are young, they have to be in bed, right? Just the two of you. Start this tomorrow. Start this tomorrow. It can save your marriage.
Next, date your mate twice a month. I'll remember forever counseling situation we had. We sat down with this couple, and I looked at the man, and I said, do you date? He looked at me, he said, each other? And I said, yes. He said, no. I said, how come? He said, well, we're married now. Well, that reason you do. You say, Jerry, we're a young couple. We've got small children, and we can't afford a babysitter. No excuse. Find another couple that's young and broke and just trade children. You know, not permanently, but just temporarily. And, you know, and you keep there. You know, it's a very important time. You know, a lot of older people tell us, well, I don't have a ministry in the church today. I tell you, let me some of you older people, let me tell you a ministry you have. Get around here and know some of these young couples that got small children and get to know them, get to know the children, develop a good relationship with them, and just say, hey, why don't you just bring those kids over Friday night, and we'll keep them Friday night, and you come back on Saturday at noon and pick them up. There is not a young couple wouldn't go for that deal right now. I mean, that'd be fine. Now, you know, I realize small children can be difficult sometimes. We kept 3 of our grandchildren for a whole month last weekend. So, you understand what I'm saying? You know, yeah, I realize, you know, before they come over on Friday evening, you might have to take a nap or something, you know, and get ready for that thing, because it can be very demanding. It's very, very important to do. All right. We have a criteria for this, as you would probably figure out. Number one, it needs to be enjoyable for both. Remember, we taught you on conversation or communication, 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. If you pick out something, you know, gentlemen, you give it a 10, or you give it a 9, and she gives it a 2, you can't go. Whereas 2 numbers probably be the maximum. If she dreams up something and you think it's a 1 and she thinks it's a 1, go together and be miserable as far as I'm concerned. You know, whatever you think would be good. So it needs to be enjoyable for both. Then we would say an hour and a half of conversation. An hour and a half conversation. Sometimes people, you know, run to the movie and see it and come right back home or something else. And an hour and a half conversation. This is when you can talk about a number of things. You might want to double V or just do a number of things. What's going on and what's happening? What's the point of conversation? You begin to know what's going on. It's finger on your pulse time is what you would say. And then finally, it needs to be private. Some couples go with other couples, and you've had fellowship. You know. Some couples take their children. No, you've had family time. Private, you know, it needs to be where just the two of you can interact and to work together. So these will be some of the things that will be very important on your dating.
Next, both need a shared bedroom. Now, for some of you that are younger, and maybe some of you that are older, you may say this is an obvious thing. No, experiences has taught us that it's really not obvious. Not necessarily for marriages that have longevity. It truly makes us sad, the number of couples that have not shared a bed, much less a bedroom. And I'm not talking about because of health issues or because of age or because of jobs that are mismatched. But they haven't shared a bed, much less a bedroom, for years. And couples in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. It's not because of all those things that sometimes demand exceptions. It's because they're emotionally estranged. They're emotionally estranged. And what it basically says is, I don't want you in my environment when I am vulnerable. It's a chasm, actually a crack. And the minute you move out of the bedroom from each other, because of emotional estrangement, that's the minute that little crack begins to grow and grow, and unless the thing is resolved, it will become a chasm. It really will. And quite honestly, there are too many ways to sneak out of the house. There are too many places to go on Facebook, too many places to go on the internet, too many channels to watch, all of that. And because of the mobile culture now, that information is even antiquated. Because of that, you should be willing to give your spouse, without being asked, an index of all of your passwords to all of your accounts, including your phone. I don't care what it is, unless you're married to an addict and they're spinning you into disaster, okay? 24/7, 365 accountability. That's what I'm after. If a person will not be totally accountable for every minute of their day, I don't mean their spouse is in their hip pocket, but accountable for their time and for their money. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking for something. And you say, well, you're paranoid. Well, maybe, but I'm older too. I'm older too. Honesty, 24/7, 365 accountability. Your spouse should not even have to ask. And therefore, if you follow all the guidelines that we worked with addictions and sexual, all of that stuff, then it's going to be a wonderful safeguard. Some of you say, well, I can't share a bedroom because he snores. I know, or she snores. That can be an issue. Now, I don't want to be melodramatic, but if that is the case, if you are the snorer, that's not a word.
Yeah, a snorer would be masculine and a woman would be a snoree.
No, it wouldn't. That makes no sense at all.
That's the way it would be in Latin.
No, in Latin it would be snora and snorus.
Yeah, but in this case, us don't snore. I can't help if I'm a renowned linguist.
Okay.
¿Cómo está usted?
All right, moving right along. If you're the one with a nasal affliction, I don't want to be melodramatic, but that might mean that you have an arrhythmia and you have sleep apnea, and you may need to go through a sleep lab, end up with a CPAP machine. They don't really look like Darth Vader anymore, okay? And you could throw a clot and have a stroke, okay? And by the way, if you go through all that, the one that doesn't have that particular affliction, if you still have the issue with that noise, download something on your mobile device or an app of some kind of noise, a train or a rainforest or an ocean. You know, put the earbuds in, crank that thing up. You probably can't hear a train coming through. Okay, and if your spouse kicks you, you know, has restless leg syndrome, you know, that can be a problem. It really can. A good night's sleep is important. It is. Okay, I'm going to fight for this one. Move out the king bed or the queen and move in 2 doubles. I'm going to fight for this one. Like the little things that we don't think make a difference, they can be huge in a marriage. They are. All right. A shared bedroom. Next.
Recreation. It's very important to get some physical activity. You can read any kind of book you want to, and it's very important, especially as a person grows older, to have some kind of recreation, whether it's walk or run or bike or play tennis or whatever it is. Maybe those things that you can do together would be very important. Now, if you choose something and you just go overboard on it and destroys the marriage, obviously you're going to have to back up on that. You need to build in respect for one another, encourage one another in those areas or whatever it might be. Ladies, cook for him in a healthy way.
Well, maybe he cooks.
Maybe he cooks. Well, anyway, whatever you eat, let's make it healthy. And here again, there's too many books to tell you more about that, and you can fill in some blanks there. Next is a positive atmosphere. A lot of times people work both outside the home or in the home, whatever it might be. There's some negative things that happen during the day. That maybe things didn't turn out. Try to make the house and the home a very positive place to be. In other words, don't always talk about the negative. Don't always talk about what's wrong. And don't always talk about, make it a fun place to be. And that's very, very important for both of you to, and both of you then can contribute to the positive nature that's in the home.
Next, praise above criticism. Praise above criticism. This is crucial. I think the first book that we list on our additional resource list under that general index of marriage is 7 Principles for Making the Marriage Work by John Gottman. There are many other titles that spun off of that, but nevertheless, I think this was the original book. Now, I think Jerry's alluded to this before, but very quickly, let me tell you why it's number 1 on our list. And this is one of the very few books that is not evangelical. In other words, he has worked almost for over 3 decades now with all populations, the homosexual, the heterosexual, all populations, all ages, all ethnicities, all religious orientations, the whole bit. He has a love lab in the northwest part of our United States, and his lab, he invites couples in for about 48 hours into this love lab, and he watches them through one-way mirrors. Now, the bedroom's off limits, the bathroom's off limits, but he watches how they interact. He says at this point, with 95% accuracy, he and his team can watch a couple for no more than 10 minutes and tell you whether or not the couple will maintain an emotional connection. They might stay married because of all kinds of reasons, but as far as emotional connect, he says more important than religious orientation, more important than age, ethnicity, anything. He says that the thing that is most important is criticism. And if any point the positive to negative drops below 5 positives to 1 negative, the marriage is doomed emotionally. And it doesn't have to be a word. It can be a tone of voice. It can be the rolling of the eyes. It can be body language. I think only 25% of the messages that we send are actually our words. It's everything else that accompanies the words. Why is that? Simply because the human being cannot stand that much criticism. It just can't. And children can't either. They check out as well. And we've already talked about that in Parenting 101. And so the criticism is crucial. The absence of it. Make sure that you taste your words. You choose your time, and you are heavily pouring in the positives, the praise above criticism.
Next, let's talk about self-care. Now, Lynn dropped a hint earlier on this presentation that men are more visually oriented than women. I'm not saying that women are not, but I mean, it's sort of that way. That means, both of you have the responsibility to try to look nice. I mean, just don't take the other one for granted, whatever it might be. It's just nice, just not old sloppy clothing or anything else like that. Try to be proactive in that area. Now that's very important. You might do something, ladies, with your hair or makeup or whatever it might be. Because again, I'm not saying you're not visually oriented, but he is more inclined that way. Now, as he's more inclined to be visually oriented, gentlemen, there's another side to this story.
Oh, there really is.
Women are more dependent on their olfactory nerves.
They really are.
Yeah, that is, a woman. The ability to detect odors is 10 times stronger than a man.
It really is.
I mean, I'm just telling you the way it is.
Yeah, it is.
That's why, gentlemen, when she says you need to change your pajamas more often than what you do, you need to do it. In other words, nothing can turn a woman off faster than anything than a stinking, smelly man.
If she says you stink, you stink.
You stink. That's it. I mean, let's just cut through this whole thing. Now, the thing that will excite a woman as much as anything, I'm just about to tell you. It would probably surprise you. The thing that will excite a woman more than anything else is the smell of soap. If she can smell soap on her man, she's excited. That means, gentlemen, when you get in that shower, you just lather all over and so on. If you don't have time, just dab a little.
No, you don't dab. You take the time.
Well, a little dab will do, yeah. You know, I tell you what, Dennis, we were at a conference, I forgot where it was, someplace, and I had developed this guy named Doug, and I don't remember his last name. He and I became good friends, and of course we went our seminar Sunday through Wednesdays. It was Wednesday nights last night, and I was out there by the table, and I mean, he took. You ever see a guy leave a church building look like he's on a mission? I mean, he's you know, eastbound and down. He's ready to go, you know. And I had to yell at him. I said, Doug, where are you going? He said, I'm going home and turn on the vacuum cleaner and get soap and a rope. Woo! At least he had been listening to me. All right. Both of you need a good sexual relationship. We have talked about sexual relationship in a previous conference or a previous presentation, and we talked about what is good for both of us. We talked about slowly exploring the other's body, seeking to please rather than seeking to be pleased. We'll not go back over that material again, but we will hit it in a different way. What does he needs his wife to do? What does he need to do? Number one, sometimes you need to take the initiative. He doesn't always want to be the person who initiates. Why that's important to him, ladies, I can't explain, but just trust me, it is.
Did it not?
Oh, did it not come up? Okay, there it is. Sometimes you need to take the initiative. Secondly, sometimes you need to be willing and available. Does that mean I can never say no? No, that's not what I said. Sometimes you're not there emotionally. Sometimes you're not there physically or mentally. Don't accept him to figure it out by what I call nonverbal cues. You say, what's a nonverbal cue?
Oh, they know. Every woman knows.
You're like dilly-dallying around the bathrooms, and maybe if I stay in here long enough, the dude'd be asleep by the time I get there.
That's a good one.
In other words, this is where honesty comes in. This is where honesty comes in. This is where communication is that we talk about. Now, and thirdly, then, creativity. Creativity. Plan that special time. Plan that special situation. It'll mean the world to him.
All right, what does a woman need? We do not have time to revisit all the information, obviously, that we've covered in preceding evenings. Try to remember what happens to a woman after childbirth. Generally speaking, that's not a rule that is clad in, I mean, it's just not, it's solid for every woman, but for the majority of women, it is. Try to remember that you have more of a reflex response, gentlemen. She is multifaceted with that, stress, fatigue, time pressure, all those things. But let's go a little bit different direction. Number one, she needs non-sexual affection. Now, we've already hinted at this. This is outside the bedroom. Gentlemen, if the only time you talk to her, the only time you're kind to her, the only time that you engage her, are the times that you're trying to get her into the bedroom or into the mood, she will grow to highly resent that because she will feel that she's nothing more than an object that's being used for your pleasure, and she's smarter than that. She doesn't like that. And so all the little things outside the bedroom, a smile, a hug, a wink, giving her a spontaneous kiss, putting your arm around her occasionally, grabbing her hand, maybe even a message on her phone. What are you doing?
I'm practicing what you're preaching.
Don't get your hopes up. You be fine. You be all right.
Maybe you think so.
Non-sexual affection. Okay. In addition to that, she needs open communication. Do you know that when you talk to her and share with her and she shares with you that 30 minutes a day, that bonds her to you sexually? And you say, And that doesn't mean you talk to her in an erotic manner. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But what did I say previously? If your wife is emotionally estranged from you, she probably doesn't want to have sex with you, period. Has nothing to do with whether or not she loves you, has everything to do with the fact that she does not want to be in that type of a vulnerable physical situation with an emotional stranger. And so she needs that emotional connect. And by the way, gentlemen, she needs to be able to tell you about things that you don't care about, but she needs to think that you're trying. She needs to be able to tell you about that monthly cycle. And honestly, when I look at the average woman's 28-day period of time, it's amazing to me that any woman is even half sane. And don't say anything, and don't you either, all right? She needs to be able to tell you about pregnancy and childbirth. And gentlemen, assuming everything is okay during that time, I mean, it's a fun time and you're looking forward to that, but if everything's okay, you'll be glad to show up for the beginning of that, yep. And hopefully you'll make arrangements to be there for the big finish and hee, ho, ho, push, or whatever you do. But, I mean, it's an interesting time for her. Her feet swell, her body swells, she can't eat. After a while, she can't sleep, and she wonders if she'll ever wear anything she wore before she got pregnant. And as far as childbirth, Carol Burnett nailed that one. Just imagine taking your bottom lip and pull it over your head. That's what that feels like. I mean, I'm not going to say anymore. That's what that feels like. And so she needs to think, and the change of life, let me tell you something. Those power surges and private summers, those are not fun. And again, you don't really care unless the bedroom's so cold, you're hanging meat in there, or she's shedding clothes in public. That's a little embarrassing, but nevertheless. All right, in addition to that, she needs security in the 3 areas I mentioned. She needs spiritual, financial, and moral security. If she determines she is deficient in any of those areas, her sex drive is directly affected. I did not say dormant. I said it is affected. And by the way, gentlemen, she's not a prostitute. Now, I wish you could see some of your faces when I say that, because some of you appear to be thinking, well, she better not be. If she is, she's out of here. But it really has saddened me through the years that the number of men that want their wives to be a prostitute for them. Let's define a prostitute. A prostitute is someone that's hired for sex. A prostitute is someone that is hired to pretend. A prostitute is someone that is hired to act a part. A prostitute is an emotionless piece of flesh that is hired to be used up sexually. I don't think I need to say anything else. She's not a prostitute, you're not either. There's a day she feels sexual, there are days she does not. Do not ask her to be, do not want her to be what she could not be, what she would not be. She is your wife. Bottom line, ladies, you're probably going to have to be a little more sexually active than you really want to be at some point during, hopefully, your decades together, or you're going to frustrate him. But gentlemen, you're probably going to have to be a little less sexually active than you would really prefer, or you're going to wear her out. Ladies and gentlemen, you do not park the servant heart at the bedroom door. And finally, really finally, if you are one of those blessed couples, you will grow old together. And at that point, you would have woven the tapestry of your life. What makes a tapestry beautiful? Oh, I know. It's all one color, all one fabric, all one hue. No. The tapestry is beautiful only because of its contrast, right? And if you survive marriage, you will look in those golden years of your life at the tapestry you've woven together. And you'll see those dark, rough hues when life was so hard and you didn't think you could make it, but you clung to your God and you clung to each other and you did. And you'll see those light, airy hues when life was as good as it could be and everything in between. But listen very carefully. If you survive marriage, there is a very high probability one of you will not function in the sexual arena the way you once did prior to the other. Ladies and gentlemen, I know of no other time other than those early child-rearing years that you need to be as authentic and honest with each other and communicate as openly as during this time. Why? Just because you are on a certain page sexually doesn't mean your spouse is on the same page. I'm sorry, but I don't hear the servant heart that says, I don't want this anymore, I don't like this anymore, I don't need this anymore. Deal with it. There are many ways you can communicate sexually. You must communicate. One elderly woman told me about a decade ago that they just held each other every morning in bed. That was their mutual agreement of sexual communication. They were in their late 80s. A request can be made in the sexual arena, but remember what I said. The request is what? Accepted, rejected, or modified. And at that point, the person making the request doesn't say anything else. No one should be demanded, manipulated, coerced, guilted into doing anything sexually he or she does not want to do, because the very second that happens, that move, that whole experience that should be so beautiful, moves from love, which is selfless, right into lust, which is selfish and wrong even in a marriage, because it says self is the supreme object of service. And if I get what I want and you don't like it, too bad. Just be the collateral damage. It flies in the face of the servant heart. Mark my words, viewed selflessly, the sexual part of your marriage can be a beautiful, viable, celebrated part of a godly marriage throughout your seasons together. But viewed selfishly, it is bound to drive you apart. Communicate, love each other, compromise. It's a part of life. It's not all of life. You do not part the servant heart at the bedroom door.
We started our conference on Sunday morning, and I talked about the servant heart, and hopefully you see that this has been a theme that's been woven through the 8 Wednesday nights that we have been together. The servant heart is the expression of the upside-down kingdom that Jesus came to establish. A better relationships begin with a better me, and that's where we start. Whether it's just friends or a family or a marriage or whatever it might be, it begins with my changing and doing what is right. If following Jesus has now become more important to you, and it's more in your focus, it's more now in your DNA, then our coming together has been well worth it. We want you, hopefully you have liked the conference, but I'll tell you what we want more than anything else is that maybe weeks or months or even years down the road, you could actually tell us, well, you know, I remember when you did that conference at Maryland Heights, and I remember you said something that's made a real difference in my life. It's made a real difference in my family. It's made a real difference in my friends. It's made a real difference in how I deal with a lot of different things in life. That's the biggest thank you. That's the biggest thank you that we could ever expect from you.
That's right.
And hopefully then, what this conference has done is it's caused you to think more about God than maybe ever before. And he's now become primary, he's become priority, and he's really then making the difference. And that's the biggest thanks that we could ever expect from you. And we hope then that God will use this in the weeks and days and months and even years to come to make a difference in your life. We thank you for coming
We
one
really
more
do.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night and God bless.
Thank you. Thank you.